partner at Mendes.
And I'm Lisa Mendes, also a partner at Mendes. Oftentimes we get asked how long we've been practicing law. Between Christina and I, we have almost 20 years of experience. I've been primarily practicing family law for 7 years, and I also engaged in family law practice underneath my boss during law school, so there was a couple of extra years in the family law arena for me there.
We also get asked what types of cases we usually handle, what our typical client looks like. I handle tax law cases, tax controversy, estate and trust matters, estate planning, estate and trust litigation. We both handle some business law. We assist cannabis clients, and for my side of the practice, my typical client can be an individual, can be a corporation, partnership, trustee. It just really depends.
I, see clients of all different case types, from dissolutions to child custody to support to premarital agreements, domestic violence. The family law arena kind of runs a gamut. And I also practice some civil harassment cases, so sometimes people get confused about the difference between a civil harassment case versus a domestic violence case and kind of where that line is drawn. When Christina and I merged, we had a vision for our firm because the two practice, our two, various areas of practice made a lot of sense as far as crossover. And so our goal was to be able to have a firm that clients could come to that could have a lot of their different legal needs handled in one place.
And then in addition to our law degrees, we have other degrees. I have a bachelor in accounting. I have an LLM in tax law, which no one ever knows what an LLM is, but I tell people it's like grad school for lawyers. So after law school, I got an LLM in taxation. I'm also certified as a tax specialist by the California Bar. Lisa and I have both been nominated as Rising Stars by Super Lawyers.
Law school was kind of second on my agenda. I worked in corporate America for a Fortune 50 company for about 5 years before I went to law school. So while I was doing that, I got an MBA. So I do have an MBA, which obviously helps running a business, as well as my law degree.
Fees and costs. We oftentimes get asked about what our fees or costs are and how they'll be billed, especially if it's your first time coming to an attorney. You might have no idea about how that happens, so wanted to just answer that quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I like Lisa's analogy about sort of like, in the Bay Area we have fast track, and we have money on the fast track, and every time we go through the toll lane, it deducts from our fast track account. It's similar with attorneys. You have a retainer that you have in a trust account. As we bill time, those fees get transferred from your trust account. If that trust gets depleted, you would be subject to replenishing it to have ongoing services. If for some reason we were able to handle your case in a shorter amount of time than we initially anticipated, and you had additional trust funds, those would be refunded to you.
The billing practices are unique for various areas of law and various types of practices. Some fees are done on contingency, some are flat. We don't do very many flat fees, and we don't do contingency fees at our firm, but we do primarily run off of a retainer-based practice, which Christina kind of explained. I use fast track as the analogy because that's what people understand. And we send invoices once a month, and it shows you exactly what work was done on your case and how much funds were pulled from trust to cover that work on your case. We also will advance fees, courier fees, court costs, etc. for you, which is why it's imperative that you keep the funds in trust so that you can ensure that the work is continuing to get done on your case and that the potential additional costs that come up, like courier fees and are paid for as well.
As Lisa mentioned, we do not do any contingency cases. Flat fees we typically do not do. We might be able to do them in some very basic estate planning cases, but as you might be aware, the estate planning laws are also complex, so that's not available to all clients. Okay, so are there any other ways to solve my legal problem? This is another question that we get a lot.
From the family law side, I often get questions about mediation and collaborative resolution in cases. I think mediation is a fantastic way to handle really many dissolution child custody support cases. However, I believe that it is a very unique client or very unique parties that can deal with mediation. The issue with mediation is that the mediator, attorney, or otherwise does not represent either party. So therefore, the attorney mediator's hands are somewhat tied, as that they cannot give specific legal advice to one party or the other. They're only there to kind of help facilitate a negotiation and a settlement. The best analogy that I've been able to come up with is a chessboard. If you have a chessboard before you, a mediator can tell you what way your pawn moves and what way your rook moves and the like, but they cannot necessarily look at how the pieces are aligned on the other side of the chessboard and tell you, based upon the way those pieces are aligned, we should move our knight this way and our queen that way.
Another question we get a lot is if there's anything that clients can do to mitigate fees. And I think that it depends on the client. I think all of our answers sort of start off that way. But I know that in a lot of my tax controversy cases, there's a lot of document gathering, right? If we're responding to IRS document request, similar in discovery, if you have discovery in your case. So helping to gather those documents quickly, being responsive to requests for documents from your attorney, making sure that you're following up so that we don't have to continue to follow up with you, remind you about things. I mean, anything you can do to cut down on attorney time helps to mitigate the cost to you.
From a family law perspective, it is also very document heavy, especially when you're getting your initial disclosures done, and certainly if there's discovery that comes about as a result of your case. And clients ask all the time about how they can mitigate some of their fees. And, as involved as the client can be, the better. The more work that the client can do on their end, the better. And certainly the more organized the client is, the better. It's a lot cheaper for you to bring your documents in one fell swoop and have them completely organized in the fashion that they need to be organized, as opposed to paying our office to do the organization for you. So there's a lot that can be done on the client side to help mitigate attorney's fees.
If you are someone who has a particularly busy schedule, and of course you care about costs, but you also just don't have the time to organize some of these documents, that is why we do have support staff like our paralegal, our associate attorneys, so that there is some reduced cost if they're working on it instead of a partner. So that is also available.
Yeah, the support staff component of it, I think, really helps to mitigate fees, and that the hourly fees for those particular staff members is a lot lower than maybe a partner's hourly rate. And so to the extent that Christina and I feel confident in the capabilities and competency of our staff, we often are able to delegate a lot of those tasks to our staff in order to help minimize some of the fees associated with your case.
Another question we get from clients a lot is what they can do to help their case. We understand if you're involved in any sort of legal matter, you feel stressed, you want to know, what is the potential outcome or the likely outcome? Is there anything I can do to help my chances? And unfortunately, our answer is always going to be that we can't make you any guarantees about the ultimate outcome of your case. We can only advise you on the strengths and weaknesses of your case and help you come up with the strategy that we truly think will help benefit you.
The other issue I see often happening is that, especially in family law cases, I think that clients intend all of the best intentions and try and do certain legal components of their case on their own, which is great. The issue, though, is you want to make sure if you are trying to do it on your own that you do it right. And so I would say at least consult with an attorney to try and make sure that you're on the right path. Oftentimes, back to the concept of mitigating fees, is a lot of times we have to spend client money to correct mistakes that were done when the client was trying to do things on their own. And so my advice would be consult with an attorney early. Make sure that if you are trying to take this journey on your own, that you at least have the right roadmap.
So, one question that we get a lot when we're out networking and stuff like that, that we really enjoy is, if we have any interesting cases at the time, what makes those enjoyable? I think that obviously having a good argument on the side of your client can make a case more enjoyable. But also, if you have something that's a little different, something that's not encountered as often, that makes things more interesting. I know it was very enjoyable for both of us last year when we went before the Office of Tax Appeals. One, because it was a new panel that cases were going in front of for California tax matters. And two, we felt very strongly about the tax issue in that case, and ultimately were able to get a good outcome, which was also enjoyable.
With my cases, I really enjoy cases that cross over, and that's one of the reasons why it's great in this particular firm is if we have cases that are, have issues outside of the family law arena. I have cases that cross over into the criminal law arena, which is another area of practice that I have engaged in the past. I've done jury trials, which I really enjoy. And so to the extent that some of my cases cross over into maybe the criminal realm or other areas of law, I do find those to be intriguing. I also like cases that come before me where it's not a super easy diagnosis, so to speak, where research is required and you have to kind of do some digging to ascertain, maybe what cases have come out with in the past or even more recent law that might dictate how a case evolves. So I think at this point, if there's any other questions that you have or you think we might be a good fit for your case, feel free to reach out to us and hopefully we'll be able to help.